Julia, we appreciate your time on Frontrunner. Welcome to Team Talk. I just want to start about yesterday. It was one of the most, the bestest football Sunday, if there is a word as bestest. How was it for you guys? Was it one of those tough matches since the bio bubble for you, considering also the result of the game and what it was at stake for both the teams that were in that match?
So I covered this Mamelodi Sundowns Barocca game. What you had was two teams who were fighting at different ends of the Absa Premiership. One is fighting for the title, with their closest rivals having lost literally just before kickoff. So that's that pressure. And then you had Barocca at the other end who were fighting to get out of the relegation zone, fighting for their very survival. Those kinds of storylines for me are always so interesting because the cliches of who wants it more, they're there for a reason. Because it exactly came down to who was willing to fight and give more. There were other nuances, like Barocca had 8 days off, where Sundowns were playing their third game in the last 7 days, 6 days in fact. But this is such an unusual season, with the suspension in the middle due to the global coronavirus pandemic. It's a season unlike any other. It's uncharted territory. And we're also seeing a title race unlike any other. The pendulum keeps swinging. The momentum keeps swinging. Nobody wants this trophy, it seems. So a very difficult day, a very difficult post-matches to conduct once again. It's hard because as a woman, naturally, you have that instinct. You're a little bit more emotional. And so when you're speaking to people who've just lost and who look like they want to cry or have been crying, it's always very difficult. But I mean, that's part of what we love about this job, isn't it? Part of what we love about sports.
Absolutely, but also, like you're saying, uncharted. It's sort of history, much as is unintended. A pandemic happened, and we are here. To be here, I know there's a lot of journalists that would like to have this experience to broadcast in this. Just the difference of there was normal, now we have a new normal. How does that then, both for you as a sportswoman?
I hate the term normal because this will never be normal. Football and sport without the fans, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced, and fans are the soul of the game. So yes, SuperSport has done everything they can to have virtual fans, to have fan reaction cams, to have fan tweets part of the broadcast. But when you are in that stadium, it is bizarre. There's nobody, the seats are empty. You hear every word that is uttered by the coaches, by the players, the benches, by the subs who are sitting in the stands now. It's the most abnormal way of watching sport because sport is part of our identity. It brings people together. It's that hiss that you're missing. And I love the fact that the Sundowns fans were stood on the corner at Dobsonville Stadium, the street you go down to get to the stadium entrance, with the banners, just making the team feel like we are with you in some kind of way. It is the most abnormal way to watch sport and to be a part of sport. Yes, we're making history. Yes, we are saving the league. We're saving so many people's jobs as well by finishing the league, by fulfilling those contractual obligations to the sponsors, to the league, to the broadcasters, and so on. So an important job that's being done, but don't say new normal because I never want this to be normal. It's completely abnormal.
With everything looking so exposed, like you hearing everything from what the coaches are saying to the players and everything else, hasn't that created some sort of animosity, between the broadcasters and the team? Seeing that with you, the matches that I've seen that you've broadcasted, you during the cooling breaks, you're giving us a little bit more, you bring us in, that, okay, these are the conversations, this is what we just witnessed. Doesn't that create some animosity?
A lot of animosity. I am surprised that people haven't had punch up yet. Although they came very close in the Cape Town City Sundowns game. Apparently one of the coaches had to be carried into the dressing room. I won't say who. But what's interesting now is that banter was always happening, right? Except that now there's no fans to buffer the sound. So no one can hear anything. Last night, and I brought this up in the post-match, the Barocca players were completely disrespectful to Madisha, having a shot at him during that corner, and the bench of Sundowns took big exception to it. Rulani came and spoke to the players and said, "You got to respect us," you know. Peter afterwards mentioned it in the post-match, and you are hearing those kinds of things now. I remember Coach Clinton Larson and Ernst Middendorf in that game that they played. It got very heated. You can hear everything now, and it is so intense. I personally like it because it's made my job so much easier. You can hear what the coach wants from every player. So-and-so too deep. This one's got to give so-and-so options for the long ball or the crosses. So that's one part of it I like, but it is just raising the temperature that much more, and the animosity. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've also read the blogs that you've been writing, you know, with every week that, okay, this week we're entering, this week. The last one that actually touched me when you were writing more about mental illness. Has this also, you know, brought so much, a lot of awareness on things that perhaps we didn't mind so much, that for athletes, being a pro athlete, there's so much pressure, there's this. Then when you are locked up, because they are basically cooped up, you guys are basically cooped up in a hotel, then things rise higher.
Yeah, so mental health during the global pandemic has been something a lot more of us have become aware of. Depression, anxiety, those kinds of things have been a lot more talked about on social media, which I think is so important. People don't really talk about that, considered taboo subjects or things you don't speak about in public. And now with the pandemic and the jobs that have been lost, the fact that you can't see your loved ones, the fact that you can't do the things you normally love to do, and let's put it into perspective, people are fighting for their lives. People lost lives in this pandemic. So we're putting it a bit into perspective. With that, we understand, but we also know that we are human. And the things that make us human are the fact that we're social beings. You know, our jobs give us identity and so on. Those have been big talking points. It's no different in the world of sport. Absolutely no different. And what we are finding now is this bubble is so unique, the bio bubble here. It's very different to the way that the Premier League conducted the closing of the season, because the players were able to go home. They were in mini bubbles with their team. That's why you could see, you know, celebrations, Arsenal at the FA Cup on the bus, Liverpool at Melwood, all watching the game together. In the NBA, they have a similar situation as ours, but the mental health factor is being taken a little bit more into account. So they'll be able to bring in their family and friends, some of them, for the second round of the playoffs. But also in their bubble, they can go out, they can play golf, they can fish. It's very different to here. Here, you go to training, you go to your room. You go to breakfast, you go to your room. You go to lunch, you go to your room. There's no gatherings. There's no parties happening here. There's not, you know, you can sit around, but no more than 10 people. You're allowed to use the team room. So sometimes it just becomes a lot. And Coach Steve Kompela summed it up so perfectly. He said, how do you go and refresh? You can't. The people who are in your life who are supposed to give you a safe space to get away from the sport, you can't be with them. So I definitely had to talk about it, and I felt it was so important to bring it up, because if you're not in the bubble, you're watching the games, you think everything is the same as it's always been. It's not. And teams like Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs, who are used to being home wherever they play in the country, are also struggling because they don't have that exterior motivation now from the fans. They don't have that support coming from the stands. So they have to look internally. And that's also a big emotional, mental thing to have to do now.
How much have you had to pack for this 5 to 6 weeks? Because under normal circumstances, you'd go home and change and pick your outfit according to the weather of that day or that weekend, if maybe you're working in Cape Town, for example. So how much packing have you had to do?
It's ridiculous. They were making fun of me. My friend, when he dropped me off at the base to go into camp, he was just like, I cannot believe that you have packed this much for a month. And now I'm running out of things. I didn't bring enough coats. I had to save for another coat from home because Dobsonville is Arctic conditions. You know, we were allowed to bring in things from home. So I'm talking food stuff, but you're not allowed to order in. So things like oats I've run out of. I mean, you can only eat hotel breakfast so many days in a row. You know, little biscuits, Pravitas, whatever, snacks, peanut butter. I brought my smoothie machine, my coffee maker. How many pairs of sneakers are you bringing for days off? How many days off do you have? How many, you know, pairs of, how many jackets? How many, what if you don't feel like wearing this today? It was really very difficult. I had to do a system of lists just so I didn't forget anything. I know it seems funny, but my sister swears by lists. So she made a couple for me, like, what about this? And did you think about your charger for your face wash? And did you think about all those kinds of things? Because you're not allowed to get anything in here. You're not allowed, except for essentials. So I ordered like meds, for example, I could get in because I'm having a reaction to the masks, and the face shields I could order in, but nothing else, you know, nothing else.
What are you taking with you from this whole, it almost sounds like a lonely experience, you know, what are you taking from it?
The most important thing I've already touched on, I think that sport is nothing really without the fans. And this business that we work in, I always say, I try to ask questions in a post-match and try to curate pre-match crossing based on what I think are important things for fans to know. And fans are the lifeblood of the sport, of any sport. And that's what I really remember from sitting in Dobsonville or Loftus Stadium or any of the stadiums that I've worked in. It's just the feeling of emptiness. And I understand why they're doing it. I know there are fans who started the season with us, but due to the pandemic, we'll never know how it ends because they are no longer with us. And I think it's put into perspective for us hugely. What is the most important when we went into hard lockdown? What was really considered essential? But we are human, and part of our identities are the clubs that we love and the games that we support. And the things we like to do in our social time, because we're social beings. So I think the most important thing for me has been sport is important, yes, but people. It's all about the people, and people make it what it is.
Just as we wrap up, last question, what are your expectations in this last 2 rounds that are coming up in terms of the action, you know, and all the beautiful things we love about football, and a season that's ending as hotly as the Absa Premiership is?
I have zero expectation. I don't know what to expect anymore. I thought I knew it all. It turns out I know nothing. Nobody wants this trophy. Nobody wants to win it. So yeah, you look at the fixtures, and it's going to be a fight right to the end, as it should be, to be crowned champions of South Africa. Of course, it's a real battle, but wow, it's going to be intense and interesting. So yesterday for Sundowns was the first of a triple header against teams in the bottom of the log. Kaizer Chiefs play Chipper next, then they also play Baroka fighting for their survival again, as I mentioned. So to our Black Leopards, Chipper United, never an easy game. There are no easy games. Of course, the league is Chiefs to lose, but you just expect the unexpected. And I saw that Vusi put on Twitter a quote, "It will end in tears." It will end in tears. It will end in tears. Those are the 2 things I know. Expect the unexpected, and it will end in tears. Oh, and it's going to finish on Saturday. Those are the 3 things I know about the league.
You know what? Whatever way, for us neutrals, it's good. And for broadcasters, much better even. Julia Stuart, SuperSport presenter and blogger, thank you so much for the opportunity. I mean, like, the time that you've given us, we know you're busy, and we wish you safety and mental safety as well as you finish your job in the bubble.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be on this platform today. It was great to talk to you.